Welcome to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton and Mark Halleck, where we equip pastors to take their churches from declining to thriving by pointing them to a new future and a new hope. Join us weekly for encouragement and practical advice in your pastoring journey. Revitalize and Replant
with Mark Clifton?
Mark Clifton and Mark Halleck, although we are sons Mark Halleck.
That today. We're without him.
Sons.
That's
Mark
what that means.
Yeah, I learned that. That was the cool way of saying without.
That's right. Yeah, we're without Mark Halleck. Mark Halleck is no longer with us.
No, well, today.
Today. He'll be back. He's actually down in Alpharetta doing some work on our behalf with the North American Mission Board. Dan and I are in his church. Dan, if you haven't been listening to these podcasts, you got to go back and listen to the last two. Dan accepted the call to a church that is First Baptist Independence. Is there a website?
There is a website.
Okay, we'll put it in the show notes.
It's terrible.
That's good. That's even better.
We're really working on it.
Oh, I want to go now and see what
you should see it.
Oh,
you should see it the way it used to be.
Okay.
It's vastly improved.
Okay.
But, oh, man.
But First Baptist Independence, Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City, an old suburb, inner ring suburb, by all means, not a new one. This church in 1985 averaged about 2,100, and the day Dan showed up, they had about 70 7 weeks ago. So Dan is now the pastor here at First Baptist Independence and taking it through a revitalization process. So, man, if you listen to the last two podcasts, you're all filled in. If you haven't, go back and listen to them as Dan talks to you about his journey in his first 7 weeks here. And we're here in their former television studio. This church actually had television programs and all kinds of things like that. So we're here doing a podcast in here. And today we're going to do something Dan and I know a lot about.
We're going to talk about us today.
Us today. Well, we talk about us all the time.
Yeah,
we do. We do. By the way, we are a block and a half from Harry Truman's house.
He used to walk by this church all the time on his way to the Presbyterian church.
There you go. I grew up here. My junior high school was William Chrisman, which is a block and a half from here.
Yeah.
And he died in 1972, I think. I was 12 years old. So I don't really ever have a memory of seeing him, but his wife lived a lot longer, Bess Truman, and I saw her several times here when I lived in Independence.
She was a very sweet lady.
She was.
Very
but
sweet.
Anyhow, something cool about I did a whole independent study on Harry Truman when I was in college. I was a history major, so I learned everything I could. He was Southern Baptist, by the way.
Right, he was. Remember Grandview Baptist Church?
Never went.
Really?
And never went. Drank like a fish and cussed like a sailor. But nonetheless.
He was a deacon. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding.
But no, he was a lifelong member of First Baptist Church Grandview. But he just lived up the street from here. And when he came back from being president, at that time they didn't have any. There was no annuity. There was no pay for a former president. Well, he didn't have any money before he went, and he didn't have any money when he came back. Yeah. He didn't graduate college. He failed at business. He failed at a farm. I mean, and he lived in his mother-in-law's house. That house that's a block and a half from here was his mother-in-law's house. It wasn't his home. And so when he came back, there wasn't even a fence around it. In fact, when he came back, the first thing he and his wife did, he'd buy a new car, and they loaded their own suitcases in the back seat, in the back in the trunk of that car, and they were going to drive to New York City to see their daughter Margaret. So they just get in the car, the two of them by themselves, and drive like a normal citizen, right? Well, by the time they get to the Illinois border, word kind of gets out, hey, the former president's coming, and it kind of got a little hectic, and so they started giving him like a police escort all the way to New York, a highway patrol. It was kind of a mess. But he didn't do it intentionally. He just said, I'm just a citizen. I'm just taking a car ride. He was very normal. Yeah. Well, anyway, this is an absolute true story. His grandson shared this story one day at the Truman Library about his granddad. So his granddad had been home from the White House, I don't know, a year or so. They didn't have the fence around the house yet. And a guy's car broke down in front of Truman's home up here on Truman Road. It wasn't called Truman Road then. It was called 12th Street. But anyway, broke down here. And so he walks up to the Truman's house and knocks on the door to see, can I use the phone to call it a tow truck? And Truman answers the door. This is a true story. And so he says, sure. So he lets him use the phone, and as he leaves, the guy looks at him and goes, and Truman was really unpopular when he left the White House, right? The guy looks at him and goes, you look like that awful, terrible President Truman we had. And he goes, well, that's because I was that awful, terrible President Truman you had. It's a true story. You got to love Harry Truman stories. They were great. Okay, that's about all the time we have today.
Okay.
I brought that up because his grandson told that story. And by the way, one more thing about his grandson, because this is amazing. He was like 5 years old in kindergarten before he found out his granddad had been president.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
His mom and dad just didn't. There's no reason to tell him. It's just granddad and grandma. And so he's in kindergarten, and he comes home and he says, "Was granddad? Oh yeah, granddad was president." Truman wanted to be so normal. When you walk in the first floor of that, you can go to the house and tour it now. In the entire first floor of the house, which is the only part you can go to, there's only one thing in that first floor of that house that reminds you he is president, and that was Bess has some of the White House china in the china closet. There is nothing else.
Really?
It looks like anybody else's house from the 1950s.
I have her rocking chair.
How do you have Bess Truman's rocking chair?
I do.
How did you get that?
Her nurse, after she stayed in the house even after Harry died.
Yeah. She stayed there till she died.
And her nurse, as she was getting ready to retire, also. And Bess said, I want you to have whatever you want.
Yeah.
And she loved this rocker that was in her room.
Yeah.
And so she gave her the rocker.
Yeah.
Well, then she lived over in Raytown.
Yeah.
And she got older and wasn't able to care for herself anymore. She decided that she needed to get rid of some furniture. Well, she had a really dear friend, and she gave her the rocker. Well, that really dear friend happened to be one of our best friends. When we went into the ministry, they were kind of like she was like a big sister to me, and we loved she and Ralph, Sharon Fursick and Ralph Fursick, and so Sharon then gave it to us.
Next time at your house, I got to look at it.
Yeah, you got to look at it.
I'm so into Harry Truman stuff.
It's really fascinating. It's just an old rocker, but it's in great shape. We don't let anybody.
I can tell you, I could do all kinds of Harry Truman stories. I don't have time, but I love that one. You look like that mean old President Harry Truman. Well, that's because I was that mean old. Anyway, so here we are. And that was his grandson. Mm-hmm. That was that told that story. And what's it like to grow up as the son or the grandson of a president? I don't know, but I do know what it's like to grow up as the son of a pastor.
Yeah.
And you know what it's like to grow up as the son of a pastor and a foreign missionary.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk today about the challenges of being a preacher's kid.
Now, let me say right up front, we're probably going to say some things that sound hurtful.
Yeah, we probably are.
But we're through all that.
We are.
At least I didn't have a great relationship with my father early on.
You didn't. I remember you told me that. It was very different than mine.
Yeah. And later on in life, he and I became best friends.
Right.
And he was my hero.
Right.
So when we say things that are just a little critical, understand that those are in the past.
And there's certainly a sense of where my dad had an abundance of love for us as his three children. I was the youngest. I had two older sisters. He loved us immensely. He expressed that love to us immensely. Told us he loved us all the time. Mm-hmm. But we always felt like we're competing with the church.
Right.
Always felt like that. I never knew exactly where we stood in that line. I knew he loved us, but I knew he loved his church too. And I never knew. That's another story for another day. But I've sort of worked through that as well in my life.
And you've got 5 things that we want to kind of touch on about that pastors' kids have to deal with as they're growing up.
It's from an article that we found that's really good. First of all is, and I want to add 6. Let me add 6. Let me add the first one. I think the first one is a lack of boundaries.
What do you mean by that?
Family boundaries. When I was growing up, I lived in a parsonage, and people could come to our house anytime they wanted to come, and they could interrupt our schedule anytime they wanted to interrupt it. And I never felt like our family had strong boundaries of this is our family time. Oh. This is for us. Oh. I felt like at any time anybody from the church wanted to impose on us that came first. Mm-hmm. Anybody, like if people came over to our house and they had kids, they just got to play with all of my toys. They got to do whatever they wanted because they were in our church and ride my bike and it's like nothing. I always felt like my parents didn't protect our family life very well. Didn't make those boundaries that said, no, this night's for us. No, these things are just for our family.
Gotcha.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because kind of along the same line. I don't ever recall going on vacation with my parents.
No, we didn't either.
Because what was a vacation was actually going to preach at another church.
Right. Or a conference.
Or a conference, or something like that. It was always ministry related, and we just happened to tag along.
And generally there were other people involved.
Yes.
whenever we went to a conference, there'd be other families that would come with us
Right.
or go with us.
Yeah.
And so the idea of identifiable family time when I was growing up was really hard to come by. I know sometimes we'd be having dinner and it was good to be around having dinner, and the phone would ring, and my dad felt compelled to get up and go talk to the person on the phone all through dinner.
Right.
I'm like, where's our family time? Where's that? Or someone would knock on the door, and my mom would say, "Oh, we can't eat right now. These people are here." Now, I know most of you don't experience that, but I did. And my mom and dad, bless their hearts, they wanted to love the church first, but they didn't know how to do that balance of saying, we got to protect our family and create strong boundaries there. At the same time, we got to love our church. How do we do both? So that was the first thing I remember as a kid. And I remember we had a family down the street, had 6 kids, and they were sort of, kind of wild kids, and, but they would come up and just take my bike and just ride around on it. And I told my dad, I go, Jonathan's got my bike. Yeah, Mark, it's okay. Let him. And it's like, no, it's not okay.
Yeah,
That's
right.
mine.
Yeah.
We can't do that. Anyway,
Part of the problem though is that when parents don't set those family boundaries, as pastors, how do you teach your people that they need to set boundaries?
Yeah, exactly. In their family. Okay, so it's not on the list. It's just something that I needed to work out as a 66-year-old
And how did
man.
that make you feel?
And I'm still dealing with it.
Right.
No,
Well,
I'll tell you what. I think how it has worked out in my life is I do the opposite. I try to create too many boundaries, and I'm probably less hospitable than I should be. And now people don't think that, because when they see me, they think, well, you're, Rainer, when I used to do this podcast with Rainer would say, man, you're gracious to people. I see you all the time. You just love people and gracious to people. Yeah, but I have to work at it. I got to work at it.
And when you don't, you don't.
Because my default is, why don't you all get out of here so I can go to bed and watch what I want to watch on TV, and I don't need any more fellowship time, and I'm good. Take a hike. That's kind of my perfect evening. It's just leave me alone. And I do think part of that has come from I think my staff, the staff I work with at the North American Mission Board, they're not with me very long until they pick up on that.
Yeah.
They say, Clifton, before the car stops, you've opened the door. You can't wait to get away from us. Or before the conversation is over, you've hung up the phone.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you from traveling with Mark, when we travel to go somewhere, to Alpharetta or to Dallas or somewhere, and we're traveling, and a lot of times we travel on the same flight, or at least come home on the same flight.
Yeah.
And I'll see him at the airport when we're checking in, and that's the last time I see him.
I go hide from you.
even though we're on the same plane.
Yeah, and even though you and I have been friends for all of our lives, I don't want to sit there and talk to you.
Exactly.
I just want to be alone. And I do think some of that comes from just having no boundaries as a kid.
Yeah.
Pastors, you got to be careful about that. I mean, I feel like I need to get isolated. Okay, that's number one. Number two, unrealistic expectations.
Okay.
How did that affect you as a kid, having unrealistic expectations compared to a regular 8 or 10 or 12-year-old?
I think it was the fact that they expected me to – I wasn't even saved, and they expected me to act saved.
Wow, that's powerful.
You know what? That was kind of the thing. Now, I went through all the motions and emotions. I mean, I knew all the scripture verses. I was a royal ambassador.
Yeah.
I knew how to play the game because I was expected to play the game, even though I wasn't a player.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So I think it was unrealistic, and I had to behave in certain ways that that weren't me. Along with that, I wasn't allowed to do things that normal kids would get to do. You've talked about some of the things that your parents like, foursquare dancing. You weren't allowed to do that.
Couldn't do square dancing. No, we couldn't.
And I never went to a school dance. I don't recall going to a school party.
No, I didn't either.
And you just didn't do that because what would the people at church think?
Exactly. We didn't play cards.
Right.
We didn't go to movies.
Right.
We didn't dance. We didn't go to dances. I told you before, even when we had square dancing in PE, they sent a note to the teacher saying I wasn't to participate.
So you just sat there.
For religious reasons. Who knew I'd end up being a bluegrass promoter? Anyway. But yeah, so I mean, those unrealistic expectations of, you're right, you've got to these ways. It wasn't just you got to behave in a certain way, and for an 8 or 9-year-old, sometimes it's just demanding too much time, and the expectations of us are. You got to let a kid be a kid.
Yeah.
And there are times that they're going to make mistakes and they're going to do things that aren't, and you got to love them through that. But I think it's very challenging. And a part of it comes from the church looking at you, oh, well, you're the preacher's kid. Mark, what do you think? You're the preacher's kid. I heard that all in my youth group.
Listen, one year when we were on furlough, we were only on furlough twice because it was every 5 years you'd come home for 1 year. And my second furlough, so at that point I think 12 years old, something like that. And we went to Windermere. I remember this it was yesterday.
That's the Missouri Baptist Conference Center.
Yeah, we went to Windermere, and they had a cave there. Remember that cave?
I do remember
at Windermere?
the cave.
It was just didn't go very far.
If you could get your girlfriend to walk in that cave with you, she would be scared of the dark, and she would hold your hand.
She would hold your hand. Yeah.
I was never able to accomplish that, by the way.
Well, there was a missionary kid, another missionary kid there, a girl, and our parents were out doing their thing, their conference and everything. We decided. Now we weren't an item. It wasn't. There was no interest
but you
there.
taking a girl in the cave.
But we said, let's go in the cave. Okay, we went in the cave, and then our parents found out.
Yeah.
I got a whipping like you would not believe. Yeah, because my dad said, "What would people think?" The Bible says, "Avoid all appearances of evil."
Yeah.
I said, we went to a cave.
Yeah, I know.
But it was that sort of thing. You cannot do that. You better not act that way.
Yeah, and I know I always wanted to go to the Disney movies that were popular in the 1960s. Herbie the Love Bug and the Barefoot Executive and all these things. We couldn't go to Disney movies, and it wasn't because the Disney movies weren't good. It was because we don't go to theaters.
Yeah.
Because what if a church member sees us in a theater? Oh. The other thing sometimes is the unrealized expectations. Unrealistic, I should say. Unrealistic expectations are that you're sort of considered a non-paid church staff member.
Exactly.
You're going to show up and do stuff at the church just because you're the preacher's kid.
You have to be there.
If we have a cleaning day, you're going to be there.
You're going to be there.
And you're going to help with the cleaning.
Which kind of goes to the second point, and that's the stereotypes.
Right.
That you are expected. That's the way preachers' kids act.
Right.
That's what they do.
And people have a different lens through which they see you, and they expect you to behave that way. And again, there are many times as a youth, the youth director, when he was out of things to say or didn't know what else to do, he would say, "Well, Mark, you're the preacher's kid. What do you think about that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm not even listening to you right now.
Right?
My mind is somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm a 14-year-old boy. I'm not paying much attention at this point. But because I'm the preacher's kid, Mark, what do you think about that?"
Here's the other stereotype, though, is that the preacher's kids get to be the wildest kids when they get away.
They do sometimes.
And they do. Listen. When my freshman year in college, I was at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina, home of Bob Jones University.
Yes.
We went to Bob Jones University to pick up chicks. I mean, that's just the way it was.
I think we got some real. I think between going into caves and going to Bob Jones University, we need Mark Halleck here to keep us in line.
But there's those stereotypes that preachers' kids have to act a certain way, and they're acting. That's the problem. They're acting,
and then when they're not in front of you, then they behave totally differently. Yeah. So we have really parents who don't set good family boundaries to protect their children. We have really unrealistic expectations for how church members behave toward you as a preacher's kid, and how you are asked to do things that normal kids wouldn't be asked to do on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And then the stereotypes. This is how you're supposed to behave. This is what a preacher's kid, this is how they're supposed to act, and trying to live up to that stereotype. And then another one is sort of a presumption of a call to ministry.
Yeah, what is the deal with that?
Oh, you're going to be a preacher just like your dad.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see that. You're going to be, when I was born, the doctor that delivered me, my mom and dad had 2 daughters, and back then you didn't know whether you were going to have a son or daughter till the delivery came, so they didn't know. And Dr. Fair delivered me, or Dr. Lambert was her name, actually. She was a lady doctor, and I was born in a house. They didn't have a hospital in Princeton, Missouri, so I went to the doctor's house. That's kind of weird. But anyway, she had a room there. You don't need to hear all that story. That was this podcast is this is going down quick in flames. But nonetheless, she said, "Oh, this young man, this baby, as soon as I was born, is a boy. Oh, pastor, he's going to be a preacher."
Yep.
Just because I was a boy, he's going to be a preacher.
Yep.
And then I heard that all my life. You're going to preach like your dad. And I got to be honest with you. It almost made me not want to do it because I feel like, well, if I do that, it's just sort of like people are just, is this really what I'm called to do?
Yeah.
am I hearing the call of the Lord, or am I just hearing the encouragement of everybody else? Mm-hmm. Now, in all fairness, my dad didn't strongly encourage me to do it.
Right.
He wasn't like that. But I felt it from the people that you should really follow your dad. You should really be a pastor. You should really follow that call to ministry. And so when I got older and I decided to, I had a real problem with, am I doing this because I should, because the Lord's calling me, or because it's sort of just what I'm supposed to do and what's expected of me?
Yeah. Interestingly, I'm the only sibling that followed in the ministry.
Really?
In my family.
And
yeah.
you were the...
There was 4 of us.
You were the black sheep for sure.
I was the black sheep, and I was the oldest, and I was the adopted.
That's right.
And the other 3 were natural born, and all 3 of them didn't follow suit. They went into the medical field, all 3 of them, but not me. No, I was the black sheep, which kind of explains a lot, I guess.
Wow.
But anyway, along with that sense that you have this, you're supposed to be in the ministry or even act like you're in the ministry, the problem with that is that's expectations that are above your age grade.
Yeah.
You're a young teenager, and they're talking about, are you going to be like your daddy?
Or 10 or 12.
Or 10 or 12. Yeah, you're exactly right.
I heard it at 10 or 12. I heard it the day I was born.
So
I didn't hear it, but it was said of me.
So all of a sudden, you're expected to be like the preacher among kids of your same age.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's a preacher's kid, and you're an 8-year-old, and here's another 8-year-old acting this way.
Right.
There's a problem here. It's a behavioral issue.
Yeah. How about socializing among our own group? Because of the nature of the work of pastors, having to visit homes, go to parties, attend funerals, and the like, children of pastors often feel exposed to many social events where there are not a lot of kids their age present.
Oh, that's an issue, too. Yeah.
This can become a challenge for a pastor's kid. You can be more comfortable around adults than around kids your own age. Mm-hmm. Guilty. Yeah. I mean, I grew up feeling far more comfortable in a room of adults than I ever felt in a room with my peers. And that did not serve me well in junior high. It did not serve me well in high school. Because I really didn't know how to function well among people my own age. Because there weren't very many 75-year-old deacons in my high school class.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. They were all high school boys and girls like me, and I wasn't comfortable in that. Yeah. I spent so much of my time with adults, and I was affirmed with how well I dealt with adults. But I needed time to socialize with others and other kids my age. And I think that's particularly true when we homeschool our kids.
Now, did you go through the pressure of you've got to do things that you're not supposed to do because your friends are doing things you're not supposed to do?
What do you mean by that?
Like smoking, that was a big issue with, my family. You don't smoke, of course, you don't go to hell for smoking, but you smell like it, and that's what my dad used to say.
And so you wanted to do that?
And I wanted to, and I can remember, I couldn't go get cigarettes or anything like that, so I went out to the backyard, got a banana leaf, rolled it, and smoked it. Thought I was going to die, because I just wanted to be like my friends, who did things that they're not supposed to.
Yeah, I definitely, and that exhibited itself in my life in that I never felt like I fit in.
Right, exactly. That's my point.
I never felt like I fit in.
You weren't allowed to be of that, and so you wanted to be like that. So the way that they were so different was that they did things that were wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes being a preacher's kid, you spend so much of your time at adult events that you feel more comfortable around adults than kids your age. I think sometimes you feel that sense of that urgency to call to ministry because your family's in ministry. You have a stereotype that you're supposed to live up to. You have unrealistic expectations, and your parents aren't always good at creating boundaries. And then the last one we'll look at is what we call erratic schedules, and that is so true. Your schedule of your life isn't necessarily built around your school or your sporting events. It's always built around the church calendar.
Yeah.
And we can't do this because we have this meeting coming up. Yeah. We can't go there because your dad has this event coming up. Or every Wednesday night we're here, every Sunday morning, Sunday night we're there. And I'm not suggesting, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't be engaged in the activities of your church. Obviously you should. But there's a lot of activities that are not necessarily related to the weekly church activities. Mm-hmm. There are committee meetings. There are other events you're supposed to go to. And you know how it is. When you're a pastor, there's something going on every day. Right. And if you're not careful, your kids are involved in that. And the schedules become unpredictable and erratic and challenging. And when you see that there's plenty of roles that involve other children, that they can do things in their life that you can't do because your dad and your mom are so busy with the church and so busy in ministry that it can just become a stress. It's a little bit like not setting the good boundaries that we talked about before. Mm-hmm. This is our family time. Now, I do think I see many of the younger guys today, they'll put on their calendar, this is my kid's baseball game, and I'm going to be there for that, or my kid's basketball game, and I'm going to be there for that, and this is my kid's concert or his recital or band recital. We're going to be there for that, and move those, and I applaud you in doing that.
Yeah.
Look, guys, as the parent of kids and you're in ministry, you're going to struggle with these things. You're struggle with the boundaries. You're going to struggle with the expectations of your church members. You're going to struggle with your kids spending a lot of time with adults and not as much time with their own age group. You're going to struggle with certainly the erratic schedules that come with ministry, especially if you're bivocational. In the midst of all of that, you got to love your kids. You got to have fun with your kids, and you got to let your kids know they come before. They do come before your church. Mm-hmm. You're called to be a pastor. You're called to be a husband is a primary call. And I do know that Tom Rainer used to always tell me, Mark, you can't balance church and home life. You'll always be out of balance. You have to realize that your church, your home life is your church. In other words, the better you pastor your children, the better you love your children, the better you love your wife, the better pastor you are.
That's true.
And the better model of a husband and a dad you are to your church. So when you're loving your family well and taking care of them and giving them your time and creating good boundaries for them and allowing them a certain degree of freedom to be who they are, then you're modeling for your church what it means to be a good dad and a good husband, and that's being a good pastor.
Sure.
So don't put those two things in conflict.
The toughest thing to do, though, is to switch horses in the middle of the stream, because now you know that you have to do that. You can't just suddenly start doing it.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's a problem. But for those of you who are going into new ministries and everything, set that boundary, set that guideline right away. It's the first thing that your people should know that you hold of incredible value, and they'll respect that.
And then if you've suffered through this podcast, again, not one of the better ones, whenever Mark's not here, Dan and I just sort of flounder around in the water till the thing's over.
Yeah, but don't tell him he'll get a big head. We don't want to be.
That's true, but I do want you to be aware of this. Adam and Eve, they had two sons there at the beginning. And one turned out really good, and one turned out really bad. And Cain and Abel had the same parents and grew up in the same environment and turned out entirely differently. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to lay a bunch of coals on your head and make you feel like a total failure when you have a kid who is apostate or a kid who is openly rebellious. First of all, he may just be working on his testimony. And decades from now, maybe even after you're in heaven, he's going to come back to Jesus, and it's going to be a great testimony. Secondly, again, you just have to know that when you say you're supposed to manage your household well. If you don't manage your household well, you're not qualified to be a pastor. I personally don't think that means your kids have to behave perfectly. Mm. I think sometimes that's where this pressure, these things we just talked about, comes from. I think pastors read that and are held, and they think, you know what, I got to make sure my kid toes the line, doesn't do these things, and so you bring all this unrealized expectation. I think managing your household well means before the Lord, you've done the best you can. Yeah. You've done what He's asked you to do. You've been the godly father, the godly husband He's asked you to be. And if the child still turns out like Cain, I don't think that's your responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that disqualifies you from ministry. You have been a godly parent. Yeah. The child did something different.
I think one of the things that I learned raising my children was that I don't expect the people that I minister to in church to be perfect. Why should I expect my child that I'm also ministering to
that's so good.
To be perfect?
That's so good.
I have to give them some leeway, and understand that a lot of these things that I want them to learn, they're going to have to learn on their own.
And guys, this may be the most powerful thing we say in this podcast, so I do hope you're still listening. Your kids know when you get angry, not because you care about their behavior, but because you feel like it impacts on you and the opinion people have of you.
Yeah.
And sometimes especially younger, even teenagers, younger kids and teenagers, they'll misbehave just because they want to get back at you, because they know how much it hurts you.
Yeah.
Because they know that you don't. Your first priority is not really their behavior; it's how people perceive their behavior and how that makes them think about you as a pastor.
Yeah.
How are people going to feel when they see? You got to care more about that kid than what people think about you.
Exactly.
You got to care more about your wife than what people think about you.
Yeah.
I mean, if your wife isn't feeling good on a Sunday morning, she's not had a good week, and she's got a headache, and she doesn't feel good, the last thing you want to do is tell her, honey, you got to get there and you got to be at church. If she doesn't feel like going, if she's not feeling well that day, she needs to have all the permission in the world that she can rest that day and not go there. And you don't. And if people look at you and wonder what's wrong, then just let them. You take that for her, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you take it for your kids, because both your children and your spouse will soon realize you care more about what people think about you than you care about them.
But don't do what I did.
Which is what?
One time when Marcia had to stay home, and I went to church, and it was, where's Marcia?
Yeah.
And all I could think of to say was, well, we don't think she's pregnant.
Yeah, of course, that was when she was 63.
That, well... Oh, you are so much in trouble now. You are so going to get it now.
Oh, that's about it. Please, 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 I beg you, tune in next week, because I promise it'll be so much better.
It has to be.
We'll have Mark
It can only
Halleck.
go one way. What
We'll
are you
have
talking
Mark
about?
Halleck here. We'll actually have something to talk about.
No,
we do care about you and your kids. And being a pastor's kid is not an easy thing, and raising children as a pastor is not an easy thing. But love them, love Jesus, have fun with them. Do those things, all right? Take care.
Thanks for joining us today on Revitalize and Replant. This podcast is brought to you by the North American Mission Board, where we help dying or struggling churches regain health for the glory of God and the good of their communities. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. To learn more about becoming a replanting pastor or to explore resources about revitalization for your own church, visit churchreplanters.com.